to call the meeting to order. And Mr. Fry, would you like to say the prayer this evening?
Loving God, as we come together tonight for the city of Waterville, we pause to ask you to be with us and guide our way. May your spirit of peace surround all we say and do this evening. We ask for your strength to do what is best for the good of Waterville. Lord God, as servants of your people, we pray that you grant us a share of your wisdom. Amen.
Please rise.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Thank you. Next, we have approval of minutes from a regular council meeting, October 28th, 2019. We need a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Are there any changes or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, I have citizens' comments, and I have the first one from Brenda. And if you don't, yes. Yeah, oh, wait. I didn't know you just got in. Sorry about that. Take your time. If you don't mind coming to the podium and just state your name and address, Brenda.
My name is Brenda Mahalski. My business address is 18 North 3rd Street. I own per diem nurse staffing and home care. And I'm here tonight to talk about Light Up Waterville, which is December 7th. So mark it on your calendars. We'd like you to participate. Starts in the morning with Christmas, or with breakfast with Santa, and that's at Sean's. And that's I think that's from 9 to 11. After that, there is discounts at some of the restaurants downtown for children's meals primarily. And then from 1 to 4, there's also a gift, what do you call that? Flea market. No, not really a flea market. Gift shop. And it's out at Story Point. So if you want to make a trip out to Story Point, you can probably get some nice little gifts. At 4 o'clock is when our party starts. We're going to have a tractor-drawn wagon with the kids that ride for free. We're going to have a couple of campfires on the street with bales of hay around them, and the Historical Society is going to tell stories to the kids. Christmas stories, stories about Waterville. Should be fun. Clayful Arts is going to have ornament decorating for the kids. There's also face painting. Dale's Restaurant is going to be open. They're going to host Santa Claus. He'll be there from 4 to 7, and they're also serving hot chocolate. There's another church in town that's going to set up a canopy, and they also want to serve hot chocolate. So we're hoping you guys want to pass out cookies. We're doing a thing for the business owners. We collected $25 a piece from them, and that put them in the competition for Light Up Waterville. They're going to decorate the outside of their shops. And then the kids running around on the wagon are going to vote for whoever wins. They get the amount of money that we've collected. And then Hall of Framers, Eric, is going to donate a picture of the front of their building after dark lit up. It's going to be framed and matted. It should be really nice. I think that's a nice gift. We're having a scavenger hunt from 4 to like 5:45 for the kids. Pass out candy canes when you come to the shop, mark their little card. The winner of that is going to get a couple tickets to Sky Zone, McDonald's, of course, and there's this darling little Charlie Brown tree that April has that she's going to donate and put that in the basket for them. We're also doing a Waterville basket. We're collecting all kinds of donations. We've got golf, we've got bowling, we've got cosmetics, we've got shampoo, booze, of course, other things that we're putting all together. It's going to be a 50-50. Any money we make from that goes to a family in need in the Anthony Wayne District. So we're not making any money on any of this. We're giving back to the community. I also wanted to let you know that Sean's is going to have a giving tree in their store. And there are mittens on the tree with gift names on them, gifts and the name that it's going to. Anybody can take the mitten off. They can buy a gift, wrap it, put that mitten back on the top, bring it back to Sean's. And then on the 15th of December, they're going to be distributing those gifts to families in need. I think that's a wonderful thing. We might even have some satellite trees in some of the other businesses downtown so that we can get more visibility. I can't think of much more to tell you. Yes.
Where do you want us to pass out cookies?
Well, I was thinking right here, you could decorate your awning really beautifully. You could stay nice and warm and pass out a cookie when they come to have their little sheet signed.
That was part of the scavenger hunt.
The scavenger hunt.
Okay.
Santa's going to light the tree at songs anyway, but they'll be able to sing along with them for about 15, 20 minutes, then the lighting of the tree, and then we'll have the announcement for the winner of the light decorating, also the basket, and the scavenger.
What time would the handing out part be? Do you
The handing out should be just a little after 6, because we're going to light the tree at 6. So we'll have scavenger hunts from 4 to like 5:30, 5:45. Then the choir is going to sing from like 5:45 to 6. Then the lighting of the tree. The tractor will be going around the whole time. We're hoping to go down 3rd Street and 2nd Street and back up south of Mechanic.
So we'd be 4 to 5:30 handing out? Is that
Yeah,
the
like 4
time?
to 5:30 you'd be,
Okay.
yeah, that's all you have to do.
We did it one other time down
I think,
here,
yeah,
but
you did, and it was really.
it would be good if they can find us, yeah. 'cause
I
we're
know,
kind
it'd be
of a-
great. And we'll have little maps for them, too. And we've also got the idea of giving them a sentence with a clue, so they have to find you. You know, like, we'll have to make yours up. I'm not sure what it'll be, but
Right.
it sounds like fun. We've looked at other people that have done it. It looks easy for the kids and yet something for them fun to do. So we're hoping to make it an event. Hopefully the weather is good. That's the big thing.
Not like
'cause we're really
yesterday.
gonna have- Pardon?
Not like yesterday.
No. And not like last year. Last year, I guess we had lousy weather. It got
Yeah.
rescheduled. And nobody really knew about it, so there wasn't a good turnout. So we're hoping for a good turnout this year.
Thank you. That is a lot of neat ideas. Did the Church Vision Ministries get a hold of you? Is that the
Well,
one?
they've
or no?
gotten a hold of me, and I've tried to get a hold of them, and then Karina gave them my number, and I still haven't been able to reach them. So
I'll let them
I've
know.
got their
Okay.
number, so I'll keep.
They wanted to help hand
Well, and I
something out.
thought you might put them down here with you guys if you pass out cookies,
That's a good idea.
and then they'd have the hot chocolate.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks, Brenda. You can help us organize the cookie handing out. All right. Thank you very much. Sounds fun. Do I have any other citizens' comments? This would be a good time if you wanted to come up. All right. Just state your, thanks for coming. Just state your name and your address.
Ron Wrights, I live at 160 Wiltshire Drive. Good evening, Waterville council members and government officials. Normally, I'm a very easygoing, good-natured person, so this is very difficult for me. The subject is leash law. I could speak for a very lengthy time on this subject, but I'm mostly going to be reading from a summary that I prepared. On July 22nd, I appeared before City Council requesting consideration for a leash law. 2 months later, on September 23rd, City Council approved a leash law. I'm very appreciative of everyone involved in the consideration of mending certain sections of Chapter 505 of the General Offenses Code with respect to animals and fowl. This is also an ongoing situation in the state of Ohio with regard to code changes. Due to the mauling of an 8-year-old girl in Dayton over a year ago and many other instances, House Bill 37, revising current law about nuisance, dangerous, and vicious laws, is being examined by the Ohio House Criminal Justice Subcommittee on Criminal Sentencing. My dog and I were involved with the same circumstances, with the only difference being I was fortunate to have the physical capability that the 8-year-old girl did not possess to luckily escape similar damage for my dog and myself. Driven by this situation and a few other attacks, I passionately proceeded over a year ago towards the implementation of a leash law. The current code was 39 years old, and my goal was if I could prevent one death or one serious injury for the next 39 years by the safest possible means, my efforts would be worth it. During the past year, the subject has been discussed ad nauseum with fellow dog workers, Parks and Recreation Committee members, city officials, administration, trainers, lodging owners, and the local newspaper. I am thankful a leash law exists, but disappointed in the outcome regarding leash length and disappointed in how it occurred. I'm here to request consideration to change the leash length from 8 feet to the original proposal of 6 feet. Waiting for something to happen is too late. It is not my intent or desire to attack or minimize any individual or group, as I have to make some pointed comments to express my thinking and feeling and provide some reasons for consideration. The Parks and Recreation Committee discussed the leash law at 4 meetings going back to December last year. Received several emails from me regarding attacks and the need for change. Also the original proposal, and unanimously approved it at the last meeting. City Council also had 2 readings without objections and proposals and was aware of the Parks and Recreation unanimous approval. I always requested from everyone to keep me informed with any information, suggestions, proposals, or updates. Until the City Council 3rd reading, there was more than sufficient time to be notified of new proposals. As the person responsible for originating and pursuing this for a lengthy period of time, and as a Parks and Recreation Committee member, I feel blindsided by the latest proposals and amendment. Had I received knowledge of new proposals, which information had already been reviewed and or discussed several times prior to the City Council 3rd reading, I could have discussed and prepared a response and possibly avoided the reason for this appearance. Safety to people and dogs is the main consideration for a leash law. Safety should never be compromised. Can any person tell me an 8-foot leash is safer or affords more control than a 6-foot leash? It took 3 minutes to amend the original proposal without a single discussion of the consequences. I have facts and comments to present. I will call them bullet points and hope they are strongly considered and discussed. Bullet point. A 6-foot leash is the most common. It offers more control than an 8-foot leash and without leaving so much slack that the leash gets tangled around the dog's legs or your own. 8-foot and longer leashes are typically used for training, but are also used for personal readings. Retractable leashes can be dangerous. Bullet point. This is a big one. Changing from 6 foot to 8 foot may not seem like a lot, but the coverage area is increased by approximately 50%, a mathematical fact. I also anticipate that there will be increased lengths when walking around the city or in the parks when nobody's around. Kind of like speed limits. If it's 70, everybody thinks they can go 75 and not get ticketed. I assume the same thing will be happening locally. But, so it really increases the coverage area even more than what I just presented. Another bullet point, don't forget your arms are approximately 2 feet long, thereby extending the reach by another 2 feet in all directions. I have a visual aid I would like y'all to see. Mary, if you'd be so kind to help me. You can just stay seated. This is a 6-foot leash. This is how much room your dog currently has on a circle all the way around here at a diameter of 18 feet. As you can see, every council member sitting here right now, if I had 18 feet, that might even get the list. So this is a kind of gives you an idea of what we're talking about at 6 foot and how much room you actually have and why they're more. Like I said, you'll have a diameter of 18 feet. 50% increase in coverage. We go to 10 once in a while with a 10-foot leash, we double the amount of coverage. So I need to see that. Waterville already has a code, 505.14, dangerous dogs. It requires dangerous dogs to be kept on a chain link leash or tether that is not more than 6 feet in length while off the premises of the owner, keeper, harbor. Why 6 feet? Because it's safer. So basically now we have an 8 feet in one code, 6 feet in the other. If a 6-foot leash is safest for one classification of dogs, why not use it for all dogs? Right now, a so-called numerous dog will not be on the safest leash. A nuisance dog means a dog without provocation while on the premises of the owner, keeper, or harbor has chased or approached a person either in a menacing fashion or an apparent attitude of attack or has attempted to bite or endanger any person. Bullet point. Ohio Administration Code Section 1501, 46-3-06, Animal Leash Requirement by the Ohio Division of Parks and Watercraft states, I'm going to paraphrase it for clarity, it shall be unlawful for any person who is the owner or handler of any animal to refuse or fail to keep such animal on a leash in hand and under control at all times while such animal is within any area administered by the division. Said leash shall not exceed 6 feet in length from hand to animal. This is for all 75 Ohio state parks. Bullet point. States that have leash laws, and New York City, for example, require 6-foot leashes. Generally, if there's a leash law, it normally defines 6 feet. There are reasons the majority of entities require 6 feet. Bullet point. Some dogs already on a leash are difficult to control. Increasing the length makes it harder. When dog walking, interaction with other dogs on a leash occurs at a much greater frequency than dogs running at large. Some dogs, when seeing or approaching another dog, become agitated, defensive, aggressive, and begin attack mode. This is when control is of the utmost importance. But this is the same situation as my last attack. Imagine out for a comfort walk and then having to deal with a dog trying to tear your leg off and having your pet dog fight for its life. That's why I'm so passionate about this issue. Bullet point. When walking sidewalks with the increased length, it will be easier for dogs to run into the streets, causing safety issues for drivers and dogs. Bullet point. With the increased length, dogs will be able to further enter into private property, endangering kids that are playing near or on the sidewalks and near the end of driveways and yards. I can go on, but there's more, but hopefully I have provided enough information for further consideration. I would expect a small minority to be inconvenienced, but the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. According to one of the sponsors of House Bill 37, which I mentioned earlier, Glenn Holmes from the 63rd House District, in Ohio, more than 14,000 serious dog bites were reported in 2017, and over 20 people have died from dog attacks since 2010. I want to stress that these attacks hold their lives of people and dogs, my family being one of them. Whatever the outcome, I can rest knowing I've done everything possible to provide the safest condition for the residents and dogs of Waterville. If allowed, I would like to be able to answer questions and provide additional comments as necessary during council review. Your consideration is appreciated.
Thank you. Thanks for coming this evening. This was passed on the one meeting that I was out of town, so I did try to check and get some feedback, but I guess I would just ask for council's comments because it was written with 6 feet, but I believe it was changed at the third reading. If that's correct.
I think we changed it based on what the Metro Parks had. For some reason, I remember we discussed the Metro Parks rule. When I look in the Toledo area Metro Parks, there isn't a leash length, but the Cleveland Metro Parks have an 8-foot leash length. But that was the only discussion that I remember having on this topic.
Well, and I remember the discussion. Thank you for coming on. And it was difficult for you, and I know you're passionate about it, and as are we. Nobody wants this, but we had a neighbor's daughter that was mauled by a dog, so we're very close to it as well. When I saw it initially, I didn't realize the gravity of the length being an issue. I thought for enforcement purposes, quite frankly, and Chief Salvano, maybe you can address this in a moment. Retractable leashes are so popular, and a law is only as good as the ability to enforce it. I thought, and the biggest thing is getting dogs on leashes. That's the most important thing. How are we gonna police the length of a leash? I mean, are we, the citizenry, expecting our officers to enforce that length? If they see a person walking their dog and the little pooch is on a retractable leash and it's 8, 10 foot, are we expecting our officers? I mean, I'm just wondering what the expectation is. Are we expecting this to be enforced at that 6-foot length? And so we negotiated the length. I said, well, let's just make it a period. The dog needs to be on a leash. And then we had a discussion about that. And then I believe it was our solicitor that said, okay, why don't we just make it 8 foot then? We probably had some rationale. And so that's how we came to the conclusion of doing the 8-foot leash. Can I have Officer Valvano respond first, perhaps, to the enforceability of a leash law and the length of the leash?
Go up there,
Go up to the podium so the public can hear you.
please.
Way to enforce that, Mary.
I want to hear.
I think we're going to look at the leash law kind of like we look at skateboarders on the sidewalk. Unless they're creating a problem or we know where there's a trouble area, we'll address those problems as they come up. 99.9% of the dogs that I see walking in the neighborhoods are all under control. And there is a lot of flexi leashes out there. So I see them shorten them up when they pass people on the sidewalk, and then they're out to 30 feet being a dog. That's how I look at it, just like the skateboard park. I don't think everybody wants us to come down on skateboarders on the sidewalk or bicycles on the sidewalk. I think we'll treat this in the same fashion.
Since we've had the law, have you had any complaints that you know of? Have we had any incidents? It sounds like we have a particular dog that continues to be an issue. Are you aware of this dog?
We have done a report on it, and we've spoke to him several times.
Do we have any teeth in that? I mean, is there anything we can, is that, I mean, that's kind of why we started down this path,
He's
right?
been warned, and the next time the dog's off leash, he will be cited.
Okay.
He understands that.
And from a civil liability standpoint, if there is an incident and the leash doesn't conform to the law, that person's opened themselves up for negligence and problems associated with not following the statute.
Any other comments of council?
I just wondered, Ron, the incident you had, was the other dog on a leash or was it not leashed?
Do you mind going up there, Ron? Sorry. We record it, so, thank you.
I've been attacked by various circumstances. One where a gentleman was running on the opposite side of the street. Dog was running behind him, not on a leash. Came across the street and attacked us. The other one, and this goes back to enforcement and why you should keep it as tight as possible. I still say it doesn't make any difference whether it's 6, 8, 10, 12 feet. The enforcement issue is still the same. I do believe the majority of the people will try to follow the law, period. So why not make it the safest possible? Just like driving the speed limit. You know, most people may try to drive 60, some will drive 65, they think they get away with it. It's no different than, I'm going to call it in Waterville, I think I'll call it pool pickup. You know, difficult to enforce, but it's still a law. The other issue being, you never know under what the timing is going to be, what the consequence is going to be of your walk. The last particular one was, I was coming around the blind corner, going from Conrad Park, past the refill station there for the rec vehicle, it's a dump station, and getting ready to go across the railroad tracks. Well, this particular dog that Mary brought up, that's been an issue for everybody in the area, and I've tried to avoid, I hadn't seen in a long time. And, you know, and I try to avoid it. Well, once you know, what a coincidence, you're getting ready to go across that blind intersection, here he comes with his pit bull, He was on a leash, but he couldn't control him, and that dog got leashed and attacked us. So there's a case where it was on a leash, which is the same thing that happened to the girl in Dayton. The dog, the pit bull was on a leash, got loose and attacked her. And then the other situation where the dog was basically just running down the street and attacked me. And then there was another one that was minor by comparison, but still. So that's my thought about the leash law. Make it as safe as possible. I don't think, this just happened a month ago. Most people that I talk to don't even know it. Even my fellow dog walkers don't even know that the law has been passed. And you can see, based on what I said, all the reasons for going to 6 feet instead of 8 feet. Because it's certainly safer by a lot. And I look at, if I was coming around this blind corner, what would I rather, I want the safest guy possible that's coming around that corner.
I understand.
As far as retractable leashes, they're dangerous. You can look up every article you want to find on the internet about leashes, they're dangerous. A dog that's out there 25 feet, 30 feet, 15 feet, dangerous both ways. That dog is in danger if something wants to attack him. A dog, a coyote wants to attack him, it's too late. If I'm walking along and I run across this dog that's on a 25-foot leash and he attacks us, it's the same thing. It's too late. They're just not safe. This is why I'm saying a few people are going to be inconvenienced. That doesn't mean they have to throw their leashes out. At least retract it back to the allowable limit.
Right.
I don't intend, I do a lot of walking. Maybe I walk with a normal person because it's every day, and I walk sometimes as much 2 to 8 miles a day,
Right.
everywhere.
And you want to be safe.
In the metro parks around Waterville, so I do see a lot. I'm affiliated with a lot of people in the dog world.
Right.
So this is why, when do I get all this information and everything?
Well, thanks for coming this evening, and I do appreciate you bringing all the points and things. Is council interested in changing that, amending that to 6 feet from 8 feet? It seems like that is the biggest question, and I was not part of your last discussion on the third reading.
I look at it this way. If a 6-foot leash is pretty conventional and that's something that you would buy at a pet store, and that's pretty, average in terms of length, I would say that it would make sense to change the length to 6 feet.
Anybody opposed to that?
Not opposed, I just, when you came here a couple of months ago, and then we digested it and then had some other input, so it's good that you're back, because I'm not a dog owner, and so I wouldn't know some of the things you pointed out. And I think, like Barb said, when we decided to go to 8 foot, I think it was innocent. I think it was just, let's kind of be compatible with other agencies, if you will.
In the area.
In the area. So I'm not opposed to going back to the original plan of 6 foot. I still think the police will do their best, and I think all citizens should try to do their best as well. So
I think most citizens do. We did have a conversation, and I invited them to come this evening, and I said, good news, I think 99% of the people do a really nice job in all areas, so I think we're good. But agreeing with Mrs. Bruno, the retractable leashes probably aren't going anywhere, but that's why we need citizens to contact us if you see a problem, because they can enforce it, so. But we'll make sure people know that is the length when they're out in public, so. I say if council doesn't have a problem, do we just bring it on the next agenda, amend it? Okay, does that sound good to everybody? But I think that's how it came up. I don't think it came about as a big change. I think probably considering all the types of leashes, it seemed like a happy medium from what I could gather. So I appreciate you bringing it, though, and we'll bring it up next time and amend it. So,
Thanks, Ron.
thanks, Ron.
thank you for coming. Any other public comments?
Mayor?
Yes.
We have a couple young students from Notre Dame Academy, and I had a chance to meet them before the meeting. They want to go to the podium.
Oh, it's hard to get out of here unless
Come on,
you
Chloe.
come on
Yeah.
up. And if you don't mind stating your name, and we know you're from Notre Dame, but maybe why you're here.
So, hi, my name's Chloe, and I'm here to see the meeting because I take a government class at Notre Dame Academy.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Hannah, and I take the government class with her, so I'm here to see it.
Do you have any questions for us yet?
Where are you from?
I'm from Germany.
You're an exchange student?
Oh, nice.
And Chloe, you were here last meeting? Yes. So now are you finished with your hours? Yes. Okay. Just curious, not, you're more than welcome to be here. I just was
Yeah,
curious.
you can come once you're done even.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming tonight. Any other comments? All right, if not, we're gonna switch around the staff reports and go with our fire department first. Chief of Staff.
Good evening, council. Thank you, Mayor, for switching the order. So you all have a copy of my report. Just a few things to add to that. We participated in the Boo-to-Do. It was a great event, and we'll be doing that next year. That was great to work with the PD and be a part of that. I wanted to personally thank all of you for the turnout gear. We are getting it on order. We have a purchase order cut for that. We'll be getting sized for that and getting the rest of our turnout gear on order. So I wanted to make sure you were all aware that that is getting fixed. The sales rep was on vacation until tomorrow, and we'll be setting those things as soon as possible. I also wanted to let you know that we were working with Mr. Gokenauer on the hiring process. We went to a civil service meeting. We will be posting 2 positions, so we will be working on that, just so you're all aware that we are currently working that situation as soon as possible. The last thing and why the mayor has allowed us to change the order is we have a large training tonight that is very well attended. We have close to 100, possibly over 100 people encompassing many different departments around the area. To name a few, we have Middleton, Sylvania, Northwood, White House, Monclova, Providence. That's to name a few. We have a double line of duty presentation going on at the elementary school right now. He's an international instructor. He's a chief out of Toledo, but he teaches internationally and nationally, both. He teaches this class. So it does go on till 10 o'clock, and there are a lot of people there. If council ends and you wish to stop by, we'd be glad to see all of you. Anything else, maybe we can catch the end of the presentation. So it's a great opportunity.
Thank you. I just have one on the report. Under runs for the month, we listed White House Fire Department now. And we talked double toneouts and all that fun stuff. Would that number be when it's White House responding because we aren't responding and it's not advanced life support, so we don't have the county come, but the White House actually responds? On like a double tone out to us that we don't answer.
Which
So I'm on
the
one that shows October here. I'm on like the numbers first.
So you're on this one.
So there's
You're at
20.
White House Department.
Not transported, 3682.
On this report, those 2 would be, let me give you the reference off the back page here. Those 2 would be unanswered calls. So what that means is that we would have an opportunity to respond and we were unable to respond. So the volunteers or we were not staffed at the current time.
For
That
us,
is White House's,
not them.
that is White House's BLS run that they took for us, yeah.
And I do want you to track that because, and it was the one meeting you weren't able to be at, but they gave me a list for the last year that I don't have it with me to share to council, but I'll get it to them. But that statistic to me was sort of important with what we have going on and trying to hire. And so what it was, council, was if it's advanced life support, the county will come out, as you know, that's out of White House's station. But there were calls, and he has like 4 years, I want to say, and it starts in the 20s, and then up to this past year was up to, correct me if I'm wrong, about 44. And to me, that was things that weren't answered because we didn't have the staff. So at that point, the next closest one comes, and that's White House. And that's just for basic life support. So to me, that's a number I wanted to know, but I'll get the facts to you. But that's showing that, right, on there?
Correct. So to better reference that, it could be an ALS run.
Right.
That's going to show up as a...
But it's an unresponse or whatever.
Right. When we get toned, if we don't get an apparatus there,
Right.
White House has to go. White House then is sending 2 vehicles in essence. If you look at the life squad, if you want to say that it's theirs, even though it's a county ambulance, White House then would be sending 2 things.
Exactly, like if we were there and the ALS came, I guess what I meant by that is a lot of times the county picks that up anyway if we don't have the paramedic personnel.
So these are transported.
But not actual calls, probably. Okay.
So, I mean, they could have answered more if they were able.
They have that number, so I didn't know if we track it. I guess that's,
We don't, but we could start tracking it. There's, I can go back through the dispatch log and find all of them.
I don't think you have to do that. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure council, it just shows the importance of, we're trying to hire and what we're trying to get done, so,
Absolutely.
right. So, it was just a number that I became aware of, and I mean, we knew about it, but put it into a light I could understand, so I will share that. I have that from him. All right, that was my question.
Sure, no problem.
Any other questions? So we can get to training?
Oh, go.
I was gonna say, now's your
Congratulations on that.
chance, because I am gonna go back to that training since, there's quite a few people there.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you. All right, we'll move back up to Administrator, Mr. Gokenhour.
Okay, council has a copy of my report. One thing I did want to add is the finance director and I have been working on the 2020 operating budget, and we're going to be presenting that to the finance committee at their upcoming meeting on Friday, this Friday, November 15th at 7:30 a.m.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Gokenhour? Our Law Director, Mr. Dombey.
No report tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Our Finance Director. Good.
I have September's monthly report,
Thank you.
and if you move over to page 1, you can see our fund balance is at $7 million over. So it's bank money, actually. And when we look at the average of the fund balances over the prior years, month to month, we've got so that's a good thing. And then there's a list of debt, or not debt, but the payments made for the month. And I guess that average, I apologize, is on page 6. You can see there the 6,577,000. That average is climbing from prior years, so. Our investments are about the same. $4,015,000, 1,008,000 ballpark is in CDs. The other is in savings. And then we've had a little bit of movement in the CDs. We had one expire, and people invested that amount in accordance with the letter approach, so we're trying to stagger our CDs over time. And then we start off interest, it's kind of small amounts. So other than that, income taxes are remaining steady. I think looking at a 3% increase over last year.
Any questions, council? Mr. Pedro.
On the collections, for, I know we don't have November and December yet, but looking at the history in 18, and even 17, we, in November last year, $255,000, $270,000 in 17, and then in 18, $199,000 for December, and $192,000. Is it safe to make some assumptions that the collection should be at least that in November, December, which would roughly be $450,000?
Not necessarily. I can tell you that I think our November approximately we're looking at right around
248.
December. And with that 248, we get the,
Do you know what we got in October? Do you know, is that what you're talking about, October was? Oh, am I missing? All right. Okay, sorry. Okay. I just had September. All righty.
That mean November's in already? You mean there's no more collections for November, or?
and it always works a month behind.
Yeah.
Right. So we're always a month behind. So we have data for November.
Okay.
Am I correct on that, Mr. Gold?
Well, I think because of the holiday, we might have been we didn't get our last November payment in yet, but it should be in this week, I would think.
So just,
About 4% right now,
so one,
year to date. Maybe a little higher, or drop a little bit.
Yeah, Rita's, notorious about not being regular. in
Yeah,
there.
don't feel bad, we don't have a rhyme or reason yet. Any other questions?
so just to take that one point further, so if 4% is the estimate that will be ahead of projection, so what is that in dollars? Is that 150, 200,000? Okay, so because we're at budget time now for next year, will we have the opportunity, or when will we have the opportunity to look at that 140,000, if that happens to be the surplus, if you will, to allocate that to some other projects, for example, like roads?
That's a good question. Our policy, I think, has been 25 cents, 25% goes to Fund 3.5, and 75% goes to the Teachers General Fund. So that 25%, I guess, can be used for roads out of 325.
Okay, and I know that we're to talk a little bit more about budgets later on this month and so forth, but I'll probably have some more questions later, but thank you.
One of the benefits that we no longer do our budget by the end of the year is that we have those 3 months to
Right.
take that bounce forward like we did last year. And decide if we want to spend part of that, save part of that, pay down debt, which is what we did as a combination. I would say a combination is wise.
Right.
Yeah, keep the trend going, that's good. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Thanks, Mark. Yep. Next, we have our treasurer report, and Mr. Schultz is out of town this evening, but he did send a message. His report is in the packet for September, which is closed, and he said we're starting on our downward trend, which is normal, primarily due to a $150,000 note payment to the county for the wastewater treatment plant that we discussed at last meeting, and the $185,000 payment for repaving projects, which were paid in September. As is always the case at the end of the year, we start paying for things, big projects, the bills come in, we start paying that down. So if you look at his list, you can see the balance of everything, and I don't know if you have anything to add, John. All right, and he said at the next meeting, he can give a report on that in October if it's ready. All right, and moving on to our police chief.
The council, you should have a copy of my report. Couple things to add. Just want to thank Karen for the nice article she did in the Mirror. Waterville made a safer city again. Did the drug take back on October 26th at Kroger. We collected about 20 to 30 pounds at Kroger, but with the drug drop-off box in the lobby, and we had some narcotics turned in last year, we totaled 126 pounds. Civil Service Commission met on November 6th, approved the eligibility list. We have interviews set up for the first week in December. And Monday, when the ice and snow hit, I want to thank Ken Blair. Those guys did a wonderful job clearing the roads. We had one little fender bender. Nobody was hurt. Last thing is, it's right to Read Week, November 18th through the 22nd at primary school, and we have a couple officers going up to read some books.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief?
I would, commend the chief, I guess, as you mentioned, though, that, again, one of the safest cities in the state, so kudos to the police department. That's a large part of it.
Congratulations. Oh, and I will say I did enjoy, you've used the car twice now for the photo op, the selfie op. I really like that. Yeah, someone made that in the department, right? Yes. Yeah, tell them I think that's a great idea. All right, Public Works Director, Mr. Blair.
Mayor, Council.
And I'm sure everybody will be asking you about the leaf snow collection that you're probably conducting right now. Maybe you can do a combo.
You have a copy of my report. I was just going to mention. It shows the items that need to be completed yet before the opening of the bridge. They're going to try to make that happen. However, if you look further down, there are two items that are temperatures sensitive.
Dependent.
If that doesn't happen, then it will be delayed probably until spring. They want to shoot for March 13th, I believe, but it all depends on the weather if this happens. If they were able to keep or take care of all these items, then it could possibly be open sometime after the first of the year, but only if these things all get completed.
Okay. What are the two at the bottom that say guardrail and sidewalk of this handout? Is that part of it?
Oh, those are just notes.
Okay.
You're supposed to
I
see
bet
it.
we'll have to
Those are
have the
Kenny notes?
guardrails.
Trust me,
Yeah.
it's not my writing.
Just checking.
Kenny notes.
So anyway, that's where it stands, and I'll keep bringing you up to date as when I know more.
All right. They're just going to keep working and see how the weather goes and keep you updated. Okay.
Okay, the other item is the Phase 6 downtown street lighting project. The completion date for that is actually Friday. However, I'd be surprised if it's completed on Friday.
You can't pour concrete.
There is an item in the contract called liquidated damages, and that's $500 a day. The contractor's been notified of that, so we'll see if it picks them up a little bit and gets them going. The ADA door opening project, that's also been completed. So we're kind of wrapping up with everything here at the end of the year and start all over again. That's all I have on that. I gave you a copy of the leaf schedule. I know the completion date says November 18th, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that ain't gonna happen. Plain and simple. So, as I say every year, we'll keep going until we get them all, until the weather doesn't allow us to do it any longer. So,
I read the Prairie Park sign, which maybe Melissa did. It said, no need to call.
we'll get them all.
Y'all.
Yeah.
Get them all.
Kind of a neat slogan.
Yeah. I actually thought that was very good.
Yeah, and I think that's probably helped some, the people that see it.
It's a call. I always tell them
That was good. That was a good idea. So yeah, we'll keep going. Everything went pretty well with the snow removal over the weekend. Like I said, there was one minor crash, I think it was, on Prairie Boulevard. Other than that, I don't think there was anything else regarding accidents or anything. That's really all I have.
Thank
Oh, one more thing. I do want to mention too that other than leaf collection, we'll be working on Christmas lights downtown for the December 7th event.
Saw a couple.
Yeah.
There's 2 up there. Thank you. Any
Let's hope it
questions?
don't snow.
Yeah.
Snow.
It's supposed to be 55 next Wednesday.
For me.
55 degrees
Good day, yeah.
Yeah.
next Wednesday.
Mr. Rosick?
I drove in.
I would
Ken,
do it
from,
next Wednesday.
Kenny, when we drove in from outside of Waterville, yes, you know, Monday night, was it Monday or Monday night? The roads were awful until we got to Waterville. And then it was
Smooth sailing.
smooth sailing.
All right.
It's good, Ken.
Next
As
we
you
have communications from council. Mrs. Duncan.
No report this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Pedro.
Just that reminder, on Thursday, the November 14th, the Waterville Economic Development Corporation will have their annual meeting beginning at 4 o'clock at the Browning Complex. If you've not had a chance to make a reservation, let me know tonight. And 4 to 6 at the Browning Complex. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Rosie?
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fry?
No report this evening.
Mrs. Bruno?
Well, I do want to report that myself and Anthony met with Ms. Gerhardinger and another member of the Parks and Recreation Committee out at Choctaw Drive again regarding pickleball courts. And I know they're going to be putting an article in the paper probably next week, maybe. But, so we're seriously moving forward with this, and we really want council to be a part of it and choosing a location. And I guess we're at the stage where the committee's gonna be meeting again December 5th, and we'd like to discuss funding now for the project. And how would we go about doing that as far as, you know, do we make a proposal and bring that to council then? And council kicks it around?
I would bring it to council and administration, especially seeing how they're budgeting.
Right, exactly.
And I guess, are you talking to people about cost or just?
Yep. And I want to talk and recommend that our, Mr. Gokenauer talk with Mr. Grimm from Monclova, because they're currently in the process of doing all this too. And they were going to hire a grant writer to go after a grant for pickleball courts in their neighborhood. So that would be a good connecting point, yeah.
Mr. Grimm, if you want to bring something next council meeting or
Okay.
after, when you talk to them or
Have our meeting and.
whichever, yeah, when you have some.
Council at that point. Okay,
In the meantime, we could look into some of that.
all right, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Mr. Bruno?
No report tonight.
Thank you. Next, we have old business ordinance 08-19, ordinance amending municipal zoning map of the city of Waterville to change the zoning classification of a certain 43-acre parcel of land, parcel number 9625959 and parcel number 9625961, located at 6730 and 6824 Anthony Wayne Trail from A1 Agricultural District to M1 Industrial District. This is currently tabled. We've had our first, second, and third reading, and we have it tabled until December 9th, and that is December 9th, not the previous date that we mentioned. So we'll just keep explaining that. Anybody have any comments on that this evening? All right. Keep that on the agenda. Under new business, we have one item, Resolution 34-19, a resolution approving and adopting the City of Waterville FY 2020 5-year capital planning program for all municipal funds and departments. And normally, we approve this, even though you get it early before the operating budget, we approve it with the operating budget. Mr. Gokenauer, did you have anything this evening, or would you be waiting until we have the hearing?
If you have any questions, I can answer any questions that you have. We did present this to the Finance Committee at their October 25th meeting, and they reviewed the document and approved it, recommended approval to council. They don't approve what we choose to spend our money on, but they approve that financially it seems to, I guess, all make sense, for a better word.
The feasibility of the.
The feasibility of it.
How's that?
So, we, every year, we put this together, and we begin by the recommendations for the 5-year capital policies, which were developed in October of 2006. And that's basically the guideline we use to establish the priorities in the budget. The next thing we look at is the five-year capital pre-funding schedule. And typically what we look at is our income tax, and our finance director discussed our ending balance, but we are looking at a 1% increase over our 2019 projection, and that's $3,590,158. We split that 75-25 between the general fund and the five-year capital, and we are looking at, we did program in the document a 1% increase in 2021, 22, 23, and 24. We obviously can look at that in the future to make sure that that's realistic. We also include grants, loans, notes, transfers in, advances in, and other revenue. We include a 15% over-programming fee, which you could look at that as a kind of a contingency on capital programs, just to make sure that we're even more conservative in our approach there. Also part of the document is the grand totals of capital projects, equipment, debt, the actual budgets themselves, the capital budgets, and then the debt service. Those are included in the document. And then the balance of the document is the actual items that are in the five-year capital from 2020 to 2024. So, on page 1, we have the recommendations for the five-year capital program. Again, we look at this on a year-by-year basis to make sure that it's a realistic approach to the capital program, and that our income tax revenue is sufficient for what we want to do. I discussed the over-programming, which is the second recommendation in the five-year capital. We mentioned that typically, we delay the capital expenditures until the end of the year, so we tend to pay for them near the end of the year. But that's also something we take a look at just to make sure that our actual revenues have come in appropriately. On occasion, we look at selling notes and other things if we don't have enough money to pre-fund certain things that we want to do. We could issue notes, or we do transfers into the capital program from the general fund. Those are the recommendations, and then the pre-funding schedule is on page 2. Real quick here for 2020, you have our beginning balance. You add in the revenues, the total revenues. You subtract the total expenditures, and the beginning balance plus the total revenues minus total expenditures equals the ending balance of the 325 fund. So this year, we'd have an ending balance of $1,751,260. Then we add in our over-programming fee, and then we get our, that gives us our balance for pre-funding comparison. And then we would go through our pre-funding schedules for 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. The total for pre-funding is $1,723,764. So you have the balance for pre-funding comparison minus the total pre-funding goal, and that gives us a surplus of $164,207 for 2020. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. At the bottom, total current year net debt service, that would be all of our expenditures for 2020 minus our note revenue gives us that number. The remaining pages, if you look at the expenditures in the middle of the page, you have loan repayments, note repayments, interest on notes, bond repayments, interest on bonds, and advances out. That total can be found on page 5. That's the total debt. And that number is in the kind of in 2/3 down the page, it's $394,426. The total expenditures, $1,224,530. That can be found on page 3, which is the grand total of expenditures, and that again is on the 2/3 of the way down in the middle of the page in year 2020. Let's see, and the total capital expense, which for 2020 is $830,104. That can be found on page 4, and that again is also in the same place. So the kind of gives you an idea how the grand totals, the 5-year capital total budgets, and the total debt service are all tied into the pre-funding schedule on page 2.
Thank you. I have one thing, it's been in here since 2006, but back to the recommendations for how we do the capital program. I have always felt that number 2, where we call it over-programming, the 115%, I never really found that necessary, and I'll tell you why. I mean, it'd probably just take a resolution to change it, because we have a split. We have a 75-25 split. We always have. And one year when we needed money in our operating fund, which is mainly salaries, a big bulk of it, we flipped to a 85-15. Our charter lets us do that if we have to, and we had to. But anyway, 2 suggestions. Either if you think your capital is that big, you can always change the split any way you want, 70-30, 85, you can make more. But without that 15%, we do a pretty good job, and we keep our general fund where we should, so any excess is in there, and you can always, as a council, decide to put more money in there. But I always felt like it inflated our capital budget instead of the 25% we originally said would be our split. Do you know what I'm saying? So just some comments for council. I've always thought about that, and this year I was taking a look at it, and I said, I get what they're saying when it came out of finance, but it came out of like the finance department, not the finance committee. But I think we're really good budgeters. I think this council is good. If the budget comes in and you go 75-25, you still have your general fund for other items or overruns on it. I just always felt like that added another 130-some thousand you could probably use for something else. And I also highlight that, we're gonna get into this, hopefully, or you guys are going to after the first of the year, with our payroll going up in certain areas, most likely. It's gonna be really big, so that kind of money right there could be used probably in the general fund. You see where I'm going. I just think you should look at it, and that's one thing you can control is the capital, which the capital, we show it to you now, and they have to do it first, so then they can do the operating budget. But the capital, it's a good way they came up with this 2 administrations ago. They tried to pre-fund it. We weren't pre-funded. Now we've done a pretty good job because the economies have been better. So it's a good system, but that's also flexible to change year to year. If you ever have an issue, I mean, this is an area where you can decide when you're gonna buy something and how, and where you really plan ahead. So with that, and it can be flexible. Each year it could change. This year it could look like this when you pass it. Next year the priorities might change in police or public works or fire or administration. But that's just one area I've always thought about that I didn't really feel comfortable budgeting 115% when we already say in our charter we're doing 75-25. I mean, we've already set out the amount we should spend. So just something to think about, and to highlight that I think personnel costs will go up for sure next year. And that's where you'll need the money, so. Any other comments this evening on this? And again, we will have a lot of meetings to talk about it and go over it. But tonight, feel free if you have anything. Yes,
Just one, my favorite one, Kenny.
roads, what page is it on?
Roads. Just for an example, I know that's all budget, but reading on page 30, the purchase cost or the allowance, if you will, for roads was $250,000. We spend about that much in 18, was it about that?
Yeah, I think we budgeted that, but that was a number that we came up with after the end of the year, and we looked at our numbers. And this number, actually, I think we were pretty confident that we could plug this number in now, and I guess, if that was something council wanted to take a look at, we could maybe add to that at the turn of the year.
So, it leads to my question, if it's 250 budgeted, and let's say in 18, if we did 250, so we're net, even, but we do have some revenue coming in from the gas tax beginning July through December. I know it's only 5 or 6 months, but in 2020, there'll be a full year. Those tax monies that come into play, do they come now or a year from now?
Well, I guess the total increase you would see, and the Ohio County Engineers Association came up with estimates, and I think for us, we were looking at about 100,000. We did have a transfer in of 60,000 into the capital fund this year, and that was looking at after taking into account the increases in the 210 fund, which is the street department fund, and the state highway fund, and the permissive tax fund. So looking at those, they all showed increases, and it was all in regards to money that we got from the state of Ohio. So there is a definite increase in that, and those can be used for general operations in those departments where we would need to transfer less money into, say, the street department. We typically do that every year, but I think we could get to a point where, we knock that down and we can devote more money to road improvements, if that's what council would want to consider.
I appreciate that comment, but again, I'm gonna reiterate, once you get the operating budget done and then kind of forecast who might be working for you, if your employee numbers are going up, that might change a lot.
Right.
These kind of areas is where I'm going. It's not you won't be fixing the roads, it's just your schedule of, I don't know. That's just weighing heavy on my mind, so, yeah. To staff, even to add a couple people on staff in the next year will be a lot, but if you have to go more than that for more coverage, one of our departments.
Okay.
Just keep at the forefront of your minds of what.
Oh, I have Mr. John, you're next.
I didn't want to interrupt, Tim, so. I wanted to get back to what the mayor was saying, and just say, I haven't looked at the numbers at all, John, but are you budgeting at 115%, or?
Well, what that is, we're adding 15% onto the, 15% onto our income tax that our 25% that we're devoting. So yeah, I think you could, you could say that, but on the other hand, our surplus is gonna go down, our pre-funding goal surplus is gonna go down, and in 2021, it's $11,000, and that's probably a number that's way too small to be comfortable, but, I think we should try to shoot for having some kind of a small surplus. I mean, when you're talking about $1 million of capital work, 100,000 is not, I guess, unreasonable when you think about all the potential increases on the capital side. And, I guess, you could take that out, but on the other hand, I think it gives you a little less flexibility. But we are budgeting for a position in the fire department, a full-time position, and we are budgeting for a full-time position in the police department. I'd have to say that the police department position is something that we've had before, so we're not adding anybody in the police department, but we are adding someone in the fire department. So that is a valid point there, because that money does come out of the general fund. It funds the fire department, but it also, a percentage goes into the capital budget.
And again, I throw out all those options to you guys because as things might change a little bit, for operating versus capital, those are ideas for you to think about, and we have used them in the past, like the split being different. Not a lot, but just something for you to think about. Think about 75-25, that's the split people decided on, that's how we were gonna do it. So in the first year, you have out of just revenue coming the 25%, you have 911,000. But under expense side, you have current year, when you add up all the departments and everybody, what they've put in, it's 830,000. But the difference is we have our debt, which we have paid down significantly. But everything above that line, on page 2 I'm on, that all has to come out first. And we've talked about on the finance committee, because when you have debt, I don't care if it's bonds, notes, or what, you first have to pay that, and that's where we take it out of, right? And you see that in the operating budget in the current year, and you see it in here. Because it's just like being at home. What do you pay first? You have to pay all your debts, and then you have your money left to buy what you need, right? New assets. So as you can see, we're doing a pretty good job because it's 830 in that year, but that's excluding the debts above, the 12,000, the 185, the 4, the 145,000, the 47. So to me, I think the other way. I have to pay all that first, and then what do I have left? Well, maybe it's not 830 worth of spending because I only brought in 911. I mean, we have the notes that we could add in, and we have a transfer in, which comes out of the general. So we don't have many in here, which is good. In the past, we've had a lot of those, so. I guess what I'm saying is your main number, this 25%, is that top number, 911,000, 920,000, 929,000, 939, 948. So point being, if you've decided you're gonna spend 25%, you have to figure out how to make that work or change your split. And then you have two avenues. Do it kind of the way he's doing it, which I don't know if that's enough, the 115%, or we take stuff out of the general fund anyway when we need it. Because your years vary. So if you go down to the current year expenditures, you're 830,000, but in year 2021, because there's a big purchase in there, you're at 1.9 million. So you can't plan for some of those 20-year expenses, that come up every 20 years or so. Are we putting you to sleep? But you know what I'm saying, I'm just kidding you. You can't plan for those, so you're gonna see that unnatural curve there. But then you're back at 687, which is pretty good. And then you're back at 1.3. So it's hard in capital because the items fluctuate and how big they are. So just something to think about to be more, exact on how you do it. But the heart of it, it comes back to 75-25. Sadly, I know sometimes that's hard because we have so many people that need different things, but that's the hard part of the job, is figuring out where to put it. But you still, with the good news on the general fund lately, that's why it's really important to think about where you put that money, the 4% that you might get this year. So. Priorities. Any other questions? Again, we have a lot of months to talk about this, everybody's favorite, so.
There's a slight change from what, there was a slight change in this from when it was presented to the Finance Committee. We added this garage door report.
Yeah, we did.
I was looking at my old report,
Right.
my numbers weren't matching.
The garage doors at the fire department are not in the best of shape, and we have 7 total, and we thought we'd try to replace 4 in 2020 and do the remaining 3 in 2021.
I believe they're waterlogged.
That was the only change.
Good catch.
I had to throw my old one away.
Yeah, you do have to mark them. Any other questions? All right, that will be on the agenda. Any other information on scheduled business? Need a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, out of here.
Sorry, Anthony.